Welcome back, Spurs fans, to the Scott Hepler Football Channel. Oh, raspberries. Man, you got us. They beat us. Another loss in the loss column. So today we're going to be doing our post-match ponderings where we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We got another special episode with my special guest, my brother, who is a Man United fan. So we get to have
Oh,
interactive discussion about the match and now on the back end of what all happened. So welcome back, Bub. Happy to have you.
hey, thanks for having me. Glory, glory, Ben United.
Oh no,
Oh yeah.
still singing here. I'm gonna have to mute you. So with that result, that gives you all 63 points, puts
Mhm.
you 11 points behind Man City because they lost this weekend. So that's
They lost the lead. Yeah.
you all creep a little closer to them, put a little more gap between you and the other teams in the top four. And for us, that puts us down into seventh.
Yeah.
And that's before the Monday matches that include Everton and, which can change things a little bit. But so do you think this gives you an opportunity to go after Man City now? Or do you still think it's too big
I
of a stretch with what's left in the season?
I honestly believe that Man City might have a couple hiccups, but even if they don't, we'd still have to have a flawless time and a flawless time with all victories and just likelihood of everybody going, unbeaten or not just unbeaten because we just made a record of 24 unbeaten streak that beat Liverpool's 23. So in all competitions. So having that was I don't know what was it. Then it's 24 unbeaten in the last. I can't remember. Maybe it was Premier League. I don't remember. I don't. I'd have
Now
to.
you guys
I
have gone 11 unbeaten in the Premier League now.
okay, but then we've gone 24 unbeaten over some stretch. I don't remember what it was, but I can't remember. Maybe
Isn't
it's
it
away.
away? Isn't
Maybe it's away
24
games.
unbeaten away matches?
That might be away
I think
because
it's the away.
We're undefeated this year in away. So it might be 24 unbeaten away record. So I don't think I really don't to answer your question now. I don't think City will stumble enough, to tell you the truth. And I don't really know if we can go completely victory for victory the whole way. Um, I can see we probably will tie, maybe to have a tire here or there. Not necessarily that we lose, but that's that's a lot of points. 11 points, and there's only what
Seven,
7
seven
games
match,
left.
6 or 7.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm just like, I know that's still only 18 if we get all wins.
It's 7
They would
because
don't.
we've each played 31, so there's 7 matches left for each of us.
Okay, so then so we could have 21 points if we go all wins, but that means they only need
They have to drop.
10.
They have to drop half of their points remaining too,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I
that's
mean
not likely.
that's highly unlikely. So odds are no, I don't think that, but I do think we can solidify second very easily. Um, I don't think there's any way we'd go out of the top four, but I seriously don't think Leicester City they're kind of fading, so I think we'll just continue to increase our second place lead, and I think we'll solidify second this year.
Yeah, I think you guys are in a great position. I mean, for me, for the Spurs to stay in the top 5, I mean, a lot of people keep talking about top 4. I've said we've been out of the top 4 for a month or more. But for us to even get into top 5, I said we had to win this match. And now, of course, I'll run, I do a video every week about whether we can make top 5 or not. So as soon as the Monday matches are done, I'll start crunching my numbers and see where everything's at. But it was already looking pretty bleak, and it's getting worse now. And you've got teams like Liverpool that are starting to come on again, and I would say Liverpool has probably one of the easiest remaining schedules of anyone in the top 10
Yeah,
because they really don't play any of the big 5 or 6 teams except maybe one. I can't think off the top of my head, but they have such an easy schedule remaining. It's unreal. I mean,
Yeah.
almost everyone that they play that's left is below 10th. So they're someone. I mean, now they've jumped up above us, and for us to, I mean, we just have too many. Kind of like you with Man City. Only in our situation, it's just there's too many teams to track down.
Yeah.
And I know everyone keeps saying that like West Ham may regress and stuff. I honestly don't see how they're going to regress. The way they've been playing and the consistency they played. Now, the beginning of the season, they were a little rough, but for the last 3 or 4 months, they've been an extremely consistent team. When they
Yeah.
don't win, they at least draw, kind of like what Man U's been doing. And I don't see them actually dropping many points in the remaining schedule. Same thing
I
with
don't.
Chelsea. Chelsea's
I
been playing very
agree.
strong. So for us to get back up into that top 5, top 4 contention, we'd have to run this table and have a lot of help. A lot of help.
Yeah. What I think that's a good point. West Ham is probably the probably the only team that nobody in the top 10 wants to play because I know Lingard went there on
Yep.
loan and he's been firing it up like crazy. And
Yeah.
so I really don't think anybody wants to play them, and I don't see them dropping. I can see Chelsea dropping. I can, because I think they are inconsistent. I think it's because of I think it's the manager how he's picking players, but I think Chelsea, I bet you guys could probably catch Chelsea. Your Tottenham's biggest thing is they need to stay. They need to stay in the top 7. I mean, they've got to stay in European football, and I think they can, but they need to stay in European football.
Well, top 7 doesn't.
Europa, that gives them Europa League.
Well, but that's only top 6, isn't it?
7, 7.
I didn't think it
Four,
went all the way to 7th. And
top
they got
4
that
go
new.
to top 4 going to UEFA, go into Champions League. But then, of course, you get the round robin. Then those people in the round robin drop to the Europa League. But then the top 3 go. The 5, 6, and 7 go to Europa League.
I thought that changed, but
Well,
I
it might
still
have.
don't even.
I didn't.
I honestly find us hard pressed to stay in the top 7 at this point with the loss that we took, because these were 3 points we had to have, especially when we didn't get a win against Newcastle the previous week.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be crunching my numbers and stuff later, but yeah, I think you guys are sitting great for Champions League football here and going into next season, and depending on what y'all do in the summer window to strengthen your team, whether how much you'll be able to challenge for Premier League next year. But okay, so we're going to ponder upon the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so the first thing we always talk about, and just for you viewers to remind you, the good, the bad, the ugly. So we talk about either tactics, players, coaching, subs, whatever, in those different categories. And so good's always the best. Bad is kind of in the middle, maybe a little under. And then the ugly is just, oh my gosh, what happened there? Type of thing. So the first thing we'll talk about, Bub, is the good. So what did you think the Man U did good
The
in
good of
this?
Man U is we won.
That's always good.
Yeah. Now, I still think we kept our counterattacking going really hard. Our defense was still kind of, they got to a slow start, but they were pretty top notch once they started going, especially second half. So one thing we are a second half team. I'm sure they got a good talking to at halftime. They seemed really flat, but it seems like they were flying high in the second half to me.
Yeah.
So changing tactics on in the second half to explode faster out. Stop holding back on your counters. If you're going to go take off and go with it. So I think that was a good thing. And keep possession of the ball. When we scored, keep possession of the ball, and then keep on their throat, keep attacking, keep going at them.
Yeah. Something I noticed, I don't know, I don't watch enough Man United, but what seemed like to me that happened from the first half to the second half, of course, obviously the second half was better for you guys, is seemed like in that first half, Pogba was out on the outside quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's something that they do a lot, because I always thought of Pogba being more of a central midfielder, being in the central part of the pitch most of the time. But it seemed like he came more central in that second half, and that flipped some of the play and how things were flowing too for you guys.
Yeah.
Is that something that happens a lot? Is that Pogba's out on the
I,
outside, or is
I
that
think
something
they're
they've been
trying to.
dealing with?
I think they're really we're trying to figure out how to play Pogba and Fernandez together because they technically play the same role.
Right.
Because we don't want either one of them dropping to take over where Fred or McTominay's play because they solidify those positions. Well, Pogba we need on because he can make things happen. So I'm trying to figure out where do we put him. And it's hard to put Fernandez out there where with all the numbers he's got since he's come to Man U. But I think that's something that they on ours is we have interchangeable parts that they can float. Even Fernandez, he'll go outside, go out to the outside mid every now and then, but they'll float around. Rashford will go up and come back, and they're all over the place. And that's when they start doing that, it's very hard to defend them because you don't know where they're coming, where they're going, and which one is it. You might get where, this you think it's Cavani running through, and it ends up being Rashford. You hesitated because Cavani's not as fast. Well, it's too late. Rashford's by you and has a goal. So, and that's I think the interchangeable workings that they have that they do a lot is movement off the ball. So
Yeah, and we kind of talked about that in the pre-match ponderings. Is that's a thing that I said that the Spurs do have some trouble with. They don't move well, and they don't do a lot of interchanging. Now they had done that a little bit more when we were running more of a 4-4-2. They would interchange a little more in things, but we went back to our 4-2-3-1, and that was not happening as much. And I think the one, at least for the Spurs, I think there was a couple good things. Of course, the first half was probably the best that they've looked in a while, honestly. I didn't think we played a terrible match. Even in the second half, I didn't think it was terrible, um, except for certain aspects. But in the first half, I felt like our midfield was actually imposing what they wanted to do on the game early on between Ndombele, Højbjerg, and Lo Celso. I felt like the Man U midfield felt a little taken back by it because Lo Celso is a very aggressive player, and especially up in that forward role and that cam role, you don't usually see someone quite as aggressive as him. And I think he was causing some issues with being so aggressive so far forward. And then Ndombele, I thought he had a good match, as he's been having in that pivot beside Højbjerg. Ndombele's becoming, everyone talks about his offensive capabilities and his ability to maneuver and create. He's becoming a much better defender when he's in that deeper role. It's kind of like with that pivot with Højbjerg. He plays much better in the pivot, I think. And I thought the midfield did really well early on and caused you all some issues. So, but beyond that, there's not a lot of good I can say. There were players that did some jobs, nothing great. And I mean, Song got the goal, but that was a beautiful link-up play. But we didn't see that hardly at all very often.
yeah,
Yeah. So, while we did play well, but it's kind of the Spurs, they'll show up for a period of time and then they go away.
yeah.
Yeah. But do you have anything else on the good you want to touch on?
No, I'm good. Yeah, I'm good, but no.
Okay. I'm sure you are. Okay. Well, the next thing we're going to move into is the bad, which again, bad is not the bottom of the barrel. It's going to be mid-range. So, what do you think is the bad that you saw with Man United?
And the bad I noticed with Man United, first half, it just seemed like they were playing their lethargic, their non-interest selves. They never got really, they got in first gear and they stayed there. Seemed like the whole first half. It didn't really, they didn't flow well. They didn't move well. They not saying they were disinterested, but they just weren't. They weren't all working together.
Yeah.
That's probably the bad part. They probably weren't doing, which also probably showed from all Solskjaer's facial expressions on the sideline. He probably wasn't too happy with them because they weren't doing the even flow, the movement and stuff. So that was the bad I think that they did this in this game.
Yeah. That I think, part of that I think was, like you said, the normal ebb and flow, but I felt like our midfield helped bog that down, not allow it to be so fluid for you guys. That part leading into one of those good things I was talking about, and I think too with the Pogba being out more wide there, that doesn't give you the creativity in the middle quite as much, other than Fernandez, and so that's just I think it's definitely some. But once you guys got going, it was going pretty good. Yep. So, a couple of things I saw for Spurs that I thought were bad. Wasn't the worst, although one of these could probably be put in the worst category. I'm just kind of back and forth on it. But the first thing I want to talk about is the starting lineup. I don't understand why we had Dyer in there as a center back. Alderweireld's our best center back, and for whatever reason, there's a rift going on between Jose and Alderweireld, and Toby's not been playing. And I talked about it in my lineup video that we had to have a strong defense against you guys. A defense that was going to play sound the entire 90 minutes. That wouldn't take little breaks here and there because that's what Sanchez and Dyer and Aurier do. And when I saw the lineup, I was a little nervous. I was actually a lot nervous. And because I felt like we didn't have our best defensive line there. Now, it made me upset that Dyer was there. I also felt that I can see the argument for having Aurier there because he can provide pace going up the right side, but he's not the best defender. And I thought if we had Jaffet in there, Tanganga, it would have given us a better defensive presence. I would have preferred a more defensive presence on the right side than worrying about getting forward. Because if you score goals on us, what's the point if we can get forward or not? We got to keep you from scoring because that's something that you all can do well. And you have the players to do it. And Tanganga's played against high caliber talent like Foden's and Man City players and done very well. And so he's shut down those kinds of talent. And then I felt like that would have given us a good chance to put Rashford in a box or whoever they wanted to slide out to your left side, our right side, to try and attack. And it just I didn't feel like we were set up the best, my opinion. Also, I felt like we probably should have come out in a 4-4-2, which would have allowed us to be a little more compact, a little bit more thick in the midfield to make it more difficult for you all to flow through. And then it would have given us an opportunity to bring in Bell or someone. And actually, I would have thrown him up top. I know he doesn't want to play up top, but you could have had a Kane Bell top up front, and then Bell doesn't have to worry about tracking back and playing defense either. That's the biggest thing with him on a wing. If you stick him out on a wing, you got to worry about, is he going to track back this time or not? And I just felt like we didn't have the best setup possible. It wasn't the worst. It could have been a lot worse, but definitely wasn't the best. And then the other thing I think that, and this is where I think Jose completely botched it. This could be in the ugly category, in my opinion, too. I just kind of threw it in here. But as soon as you all got your equalizing goal, he brought off Lo Celso, brought on Musa Sissoko, and then pushed Ndombele up into the cam position, which I've been a big proponent of. Ndombele does not function well in that advanced role. And then bringing in Sissoko, to me, is Jose saying, you know what? At this point, we're just playing for a tie. We're not
Yeah.
going for the win anymore. We're not going to go for a win.
Because he's
Because
a
Sissoko is strictly a
midfield.
defensive player,
Yep.
provides nothing going forward. He can't even pass the ball 10 yards to his own players most of the time, unless it's just completely open. So doing that, I think, completely negated the troubles you were having in the midfield in the first part of the match. And so I felt like that was a huge error that Jose made. And then you guys get, and then he doesn't bring on Bell till like just a few minutes before the end of the match. By that time, it's done. You guys got it. It's his subs often perplex me, and I get very frustrated.
Well, I think one of the bad things I noticed about Tottenham in the first half was I really didn't notice Kane. I did not notice him very often, and that's not like him. I don't think him and Lucas move well together, and I that's one of the bad things I think when you put them on the same pitch or try and put Lucas up front with him. If you put him out as a wing and like a right mid or something, not Kane, of course, that they work better. But I didn't see him very often touching the ball and stuff. So that's, to me, that was definitely one of the bad things I saw about Tottenham is the midfield was doing so well, but they didn't look like they had anybody to go to except unless Song got up there, and that's just a bad thing I saw about Tottenham. They had all
that's
that.
one thing I will give a Man U credit for, and this is something I hadn't seen any other team do. This is something I took note of because I saw it repeatedly throughout the match. Every time a long ball went up to Kane, there was two Man United guys on him. Not one, not just one guy trying to go up, and there was one in front and one in behind. So he couldn't, bring it into his chest and hold it up, and he couldn't flick it on. This is the first time I've ever seen a team double team Kane on those long balls, and it was very effective. I will say that was a great strategic play that Solskjaer did. Gunner, I mean, wherever he came up with that. I mean, to me, it reminded me of like in basketball when you double team someone in the post.
Yeah,
you're double teaming the post, and so the guy can't get the ball in, and you don't want those big guys getting the ball in the post. Well, that's what it
deny it. Yeah.
And the one thing about Lucas, when he's out on the wing, he's very one-dimensional. He's he had been playing more centrally for about a month, and he was actually a little bit. But I understand why they put Lo Celso in there, because Lo Celso does not function on the wing very well at all. He's not a winger.
Yeah.
He's more effective in the middle. But the thing about Lucas, he's got pace, but if you can get in front of him, he's gonna dribble around one or two guys, but then he just tries to dribble around three or four, and then he loses the ball. He does not play with the same thought process on the wing as he does in the middle, and looking for those darting passes and laying it off to someone here or there. On the wing, he's just like, I'm the guy out here and I'm going to do it all. And that's where I think Lucas really, he's got to take what he learned when he was playing centrally and apply it out on the wing. And he just doesn't do that very well. And he was okay, but he was not great. He's not been as good as he had been past month, that's for sure. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up about Kane, because I wanted to make a specific mention about how they were double teaming him. And I don't know that I've ever seen that in football, actually, like that, where someone gets double teamed like that on those long balls every single time. It wasn't just an occasional thing. It was almost every single time. and they had to pull that from some other sport or whatever because that's something pretty unique that I've never seen. So, well, you got any more bad you want to discuss?
No, I'll save my other stuff for ugly.
Oh, you got some ugly stuff for
I
your
got a
team?
couple of I got a couple of ugly things for both teams actually.
Okay, well, I mean, we could talk all day for about the Spurs with the ugly.
I only got one. I got one for the Spurs, and that's it. But it's one I've told you in pregame.
Okay, all right. So we're gonna go into the ugly now, and I'll let you head off with your Man United and let us know what you think they did that was ugly.
Well, I don't think it was as much as me and you as it was the ref. I think the ref, like the McTominay foul and pulling back the Cavani goal, that's ugly. And I'll say that's me and you side, but I think that's ugly. That's his arm goes out to push off because Song's grabbing him. That should not have been a foul, and we should have had a goal on that. So I that's my ugly for that version.
Okay,
Uh,
well, my issue with the whole thing with there was a number of times both teams that hit each other in the face, they didn't get called. This inconsistency that with the way they call that is the most frustrating thing to me. If you go by the letter of the law, it should be a foul, but it should be a foul every time, not just when there's a goal scoring opportunity. It should be a foul if it's at the half line or the penalty box or whatever. If it's a foul all the time. It doesn't matter. And
what? God. Hello, there you are.
okay, I dropped off there for a second. So
Uh,
my biggest issue with that is it's not a consistent way they handle that. And so if you're going to call it one way, call it that way all the time. If you're, if it's this way, that's what it is all the time, no matter what. Another thing I have a big issue with. All right, I'm back.
sorry. I don't know if that's me or you, but sorry about that.
Yeah. So another thing I have with with the arms up and everything is, and it happens always with the professional leagues, is they allow these guys to use their arms to create space and do things like that. You don't see that in any other. You don't. That's not how the kids are taught at lower leagues and stuff like that. That's a foul if you're reaching out and trying to push off and different things like that. That's not part of a natural motion. So I think part of the problem is they allow these players to play like that, and so it invites these kinds of issues because there's not you don't see it hardly at all, whether it's Premier League
Sorry.
or MLS or no matter whatever at the higher levels, at the professional levels.
Yeah.
Everyone uses their arms. They don't use their shoulders and keep their arms down like they're supposed to, like the letter of the law says. And they just don't call it. It's kind of like in basketball anymore. You can take 4 or 5 steps with the ball, and it's okay. you
Yeah,
know,
that's true. Like pros,
yeah. I
and
mean,
they
it's
don't.
it's like a different set of rules
Yeah.
for professionals and um, amateurs, I guess you'd say.
Right.
So that's one of the things I think it's kind of frustrating with that whole thing, because it just they don't. It's not consistent. It definitely isn't. Well, I'll go into my uglies. How about that?
All right.
All right. So the uglies I have for Tottenham is Dyer is one of them.
The heck?
Can you
What
hear me?
the? Yeah,
Can you
I
hear
don't know
me?
what's going on. I can hear you.
Okay. I don't know what's going on either. Okay, so Dyer's one of my uglies, and can you hear me now?
I can hear you. I see you.
Okay, so with Dyer, he completely let Cavani just get by him on the one that was disallowed.
Yeah.
And even though it was disallowed, that was a terrible play by Dyer. And so even though you all didn't get a goal out of that one, that's just not acceptable. And then he was part of a goal later on that he didn't play well either. So he was a part of essentially one goal that was held up and one goal that was unaccounted for because it was called off. So in my mind, he was actually responsible for at least 2 goals on the day. So that was a terrible thing. And then the other ugly I have is Aurier. He was responsible for goals too. He did let on the one that Cavani actually got to keep in his pocket, let him just go right by him. So, and like you said, Cavani, he's very good and he can move around a lot. He's got a great intelligence about him inside the box and how to move. And these guys just did not hold up and do their job. And that was the ugly. To me, that was too easy. It shouldn't be that easy for Cavani to go and, get that header that Fred ended up cleaning up for the equalizer. Lloris made a miraculous save to keep it out. Cavani's 4 or 5 yards out. That should be in the back of the net. So just that,
and it normally is.
So to me, those guys just let down the team, and that's why I didn't want them in the squad. They are not strong enough consistently as defenders, and that to me was the absolute ugly. You can make arguments, and some of the subs can be in the ugly and stuff, but for me, that was the absolute ugly for Spurs.
Yeah, and the ugly for me for Spurs is always going to be your fabulous manager.
Yeah.
I don't like him. I don't think he does well, but that's just me. I don't like Marino, and I think he hurts you. I think he hurts your team.
Yeah, it's like we talked about, Bob. In my mind, he's not a coach. He's a manager, and if he doesn't have the players that fit what he needs, he can't be successful.
Yeah.
And the Spurs need a coach that can take whatever players they have and get the most out of them. He's not that guy. And whether we go into a rebuild mode or not, he's not the guy to moving forward. We're not going to spend enough money to bring in the players that he wants. And he's definitely not a guy that you want around a rebuild, because I can't think of any team that he has actually rebuilt into a success.
No, that's what I was trying to say on the pre-match is, the only thing I think he built was maybe Porto. Back when that's when Porto had it. So, but as far as since then, he's always taken over already made teams and just managed them, and ended up managing them all into the ground. To me, that's just how I see. He has great players, and he gets his big head and don't let players play.
Losing you, Bob.
Wow, that's glitchy there. Okay, but
yeah,
he doesn't let. Yeah, he doesn't let players. He wants, no matter what, he'll take Bell and say, like Bell's just going to be an example. It's going to be a ridiculous example, but that's how I think he is. Bell, you used to play forward and wing and outside mid. I want you to play defense. Bell says, I can't play defense. I can't play a center back. No, you're going to do it because I'm the coach, and I would say you're going to do it. That's it. And I think he does that. He puts people, he doesn't help them flourish as a manager, is what I'm saying.
I think the only person I think he's absolutely made better this season is Kane. And whether you want to argue that, that's something that Mourinho helped with, because Kane's a different player than he has been, because to me, what Kane has been doing this year is something more similar to what Messi does. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Kane is Messi, but he's been playing with a lot more fluidity and freedom like a Messi. Messi doesn't really have a position that he plays. He's out there every match, and you'll see him everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what you've seen Kane this season become. He's more of that kind of player. That he's not locked into a position. Now, when we play a 4-2-3-1, he's a little more locked into that up front but even then, he's been coming back a lot more. There's been a lot of times in the matches that Kane's come back and gotten the ball off of the center backs. He's dropped that deep. He's dropped behind the holding midfielders. And that's what Messi does too. And so I think you can argue that he's made Kane a more complete player, maybe. Not necessarily better, but more complete. I'd say Kane's probably the most complete striker in the world right now. Not goal scorer, but maybe striker. I mean, you could argue Lewandowski's the best goal scorer in the world right now, or maybe even Haaland. But I'd say Kane's one of the most complete, actual out and out strikers, because he'll do more than just score. Now he does a lot more than just score. And I think that's probably the only person I could arguably say that maybe Mourinho's had a positive impact that's noticeable. And that's the problem. You got 25 players on a team roughly, and you make one better. That's not going to do the job to make the team better.
Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, at this point, there's a lot of people saying Jose needs to go now, and I'm like, well, what's the point? Every match we don't do well in is one that's just like, well, it's coming. It's just win.
Well, I'll still get to the fact that I don't believe that I don't like the musical chairs of coaching. I mean, it doesn't mean I say you keep him there. It doesn't mean I'm telling you to get rid of him. But I do think if you get a manager, you're gonna let Marino stay. You better let him stay and let him stay for a couple of years. If you're not gonna let him stay, bring someone else, but give him a couple of years to build it. You need to have consistency as a manager to build your team. Now, I don't think Marino's ever going to be that, just because he wants to spend for big names.
Yeah.
But he wants to buy big names, but he doesn't want to let the big names do not really what they want, but give them freedom to express themselves on the field, I guess is my best way of saying is you're going to, this is my formation. This is my philosophy as a coach. You go out and do your job around my philosophy. Now, I'm not going to say, but you have the luxury of you do it. I'll help you figure it out. We'll figure it out together, but you need to, this is our formation. This is our philosophy. Put your little stamp on it. You have that carte blanche. He says, if you have any carte blanche, you're ixnayed and you're on my bad list. And like the center defender you have right now. You're on my bad list because you're not doing it the way I said you're going to do it. And that's just the way I think.
I think too, one of the things with Jose is, or at least what it seems, and we don't get to see the behind the scenes stuff. We don't get to see the training sessions and things like that. But just from the continued issues, and it's not that they're different issues, it's always the same kinds of issues that no matter who is in, whether he's changing these different players out in different positions, and or the same positions. One of the things that I kind of seeing or reading between the lines is I don't think he's that great of a communicator, because it doesn't seem like anyone really understands what he wants, because what he says in press conferences, either before or after a match, often contradicts completely what happens on the field. And maybe the players aren't doing it or they don't understand it, but that's his job as the coach manager, is to help them understand.
Yeah.
If he's not getting the message across, if they're confused, if they don't know what they're doing, that's on him at some level. Now, there's plenty of blame to go across the players and every. It's not just a Jose problem. There's other issues beyond Jose. Don't get me wrong. But if you're going to take all the credit when you're successful and things go well, you got to be ready to buck up and take the brunt of what happens in when things don't go well. And he just doesn't do that well either. He deflects everything.
Right.
So, yeah, I said it before when we talked on the pre-match. I think for the Spurs, they have to have the right kind of manager. And it's a manager that's not really a manager, but a coach first.
Yeah.
They're a coach first. That way, because we talked about it, Spurs are never going to spend money like Liverpool, Man City, Man United, or Chelsea. They never going to spend money like you guys do. And to be able to maximize what we do spend on, we have to have an actual coach, not just a guy that's going to lambaste everyone because they're not being successful or doing what they say. And that's where I think our biggest failing is we don't have the right person. And like you said, I agree with you too. We got to have someone that sticks around for a few years. And Jose doesn't stick around more than 2 to 3 years anyway. In anywhere he goes, that's his track record. So he's not one that sticks around. But well, Bob, I know we went a little long there, but I appreciate you coming on again. It was a lot of fun. Sorry you guys won.
Yep.
I apologize for you guys.
But that's all right.
But
I'll just sing glory, glory.
Man, gosh, I'm gonna have to mute you again. But maybe we'll get together again here at the end of the season, look at how things shake out, and we'll have a conversation going into the summer break and stuff. And this would be fun to be able to do on a regular basis when our teams meet up.
Yeah, I'll do it. I mean, I could do anytime, any other teams too. I'm fine with that.
All right. Well, I'll keep that in mind. And thanks, Bub, for coming on, and we'll talk to you later.
All right, buddy. Thank you. Love you, bud. See you later.
All right. Bye.